Welcome to the Crop Insurance Podcast, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of crop insurance. I'm your host, Mike Rydell, a third-generation crop insurance agent, and I'm thrilled to have you join me on this educational journey. At our family-owned and operated business, we've been providing crop insurance expertise for generations. Our goal here is simple, to educate our listeners. Crop insurance can be complex and overwhelming, but I believe that understanding it is crucial for every farmer. So whether you're a seasoned farmer looking to stay updated or a newcomer seeking guidance, this podcast is for you. Welcome to today's podcast, brought to you by Crop West Insurance Incorporated, your agent-friendly crop insurance group. Are you a crop insurance agent looking to elevate your business to new heights? Look no further than Crop West Insurance. With over 60 years of industry knowledge and a dedicated team of consultants across multiple states, they specialize in helping agents like you grow your agency. From personalized marketing plans to in-depth educational meetings, they are here to support you every step of the way. Join Crop West Insurance today and unlock a world of opportunity for your agency. For more information, please head on over to their website at cropwestinsurance.com. Crop West Insurance Incorporated is an equal opportunity provider and employer. Welcome to a new episode of the Crop Insurance Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Rydell. In today's episode, we're going to revisit master yields from our previous episode, but we're going to give some examples to help drive the point home. As I went back and listened to the previous podcast, which I recommend you do as well, I noticed that it's kind of hard to follow a little bit without some examples to dive into what the average yield means, what the different entities and operator definitions mean. And so I thought I'd do a brief couple examples to kind of illustrate our point. If you head over to our website at thecropinsurancepodcast.com, you'll find an article on master yields. Now, it's going to be that same article that we referenced in the previous episode, but we've since added these example data to the bottom of the article so you can see what we're talking about in a little more granular of detail. So again, if you have not already listened to the Master Yield Part 1 episode, you definitely need to. If you've gone to our website and read through the article and have looked at the RMA presentation, you'll kind of know a little bit more about what we're talking about. Now, in the RMA example, they use Bill and Ted from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And so I wanted to try to find something as well. But instead of using movies, I went in and asked our Crop Insurance Podcast AI to create some entities for me in history. So none of this history is real. None of these entities are real. So there's no transferring of information from anybody's history. This is all made up data, just as an FYI. When looking at the master yields, you have to remember that the operator is important. You identify the operator, and then all of the history for the relevant crop for that operator can be used to establish the master yield. Now, there's a little asterisk there on all of the history. Sometimes history might be too old to independently verify, things of that nature. But let's just assume, for argument's sake and for the purposes of this example, that all of the people and the entities we're talking about have a crop that is eligible for the master yield program in their varying states and counties. All of the ground in this example is in the same county. All of the ground is in the same map area. All of the ground is the same crop in practice type. So it's all pretty much the same crop in the same map area in the same county that these operators farm with different entities. So let's just assume that everything is on the level and everything is being done prior to the production reporting deadline as well. So for this example, we have two people that have crop insurance policies. We have Sarah Johnson, who has a policy as an individual. We have Michael Chen, who has a spousal policy as an individual entity as well. Now, Sarah has a commercial entity called Green Harvest Farms, and Michael has a commercial entity called Golden Fields Agriculture. Now, Sarah and Michael are neighbors, and they decided to get together, and the two of them formed a partnership called Harmony Agri Solutions. Now, Sarah and Michael are 50-50 partners with this commercial entity. On the Gold Fields Agriculture, that's Michael's commercial entity, he's 100% owner of Golden Field Agriculture. Sarah is 100% owner of Green Harvest Farms. Now, on Sarah's individual policy, she's 100% owner. And on Michael's, he's 50-50 with his spouse, but he's determined to be the operator. So now when we look at these different policies, we can define who the operator is. On Sarah Johnson's policy, she's the operator. She's also the operator on Green Harvest Farms, and she's also an operator on Harmony Agri Solutions. Now, when you look at Michael Chen, who he is an operator on, it's on his personal policy or his spousal policy. He's also an operator on the commercial policy, his Golden Fields Agriculture. And due to the rules of the way the master yield works, since he's 50-50 on Harmony Agri Solutions, he's also a partner there. Now, what does that mean when we're defining all these operators? That means that any one operator can then choose to use all of the relevant history that they have access to. So for Sarah Johnson, if she wanted to apply for a master yield, she'd be able to use her current history plus Green Harvest Farms history plus Harmony Agri Solutions, that partnership with Michael. She would be able to use that production history as well. On Michael's, he gets to use his history, Golden Field Agriculture, and Harmony Agri Solutions history as well. Now, on Harmony Agri Solutions master yield, because they want to get one too, they would then get to use their own history, but then they get to add in Sarah's history because she's an operator. They get to add in Sarah's commercial entity, that Green Harvest Farms, because she's an operator there too, Michael's history, and Michael's commercial entity, Golden Field Agriculture's history as well. So they'd get to use all of that history to come up with the master yield for that commercial entity. Now, if you're wondering what Sarah's history would look like in terms of what history her commercial entity would get to use, it would be the same history that her personal policy would get to use as well. It'd be the commercial entity that she owns, her personal history, and the partnership, that Harmony Agri Solutions. And again, when I reference Harmony Agri Solutions in any one person's history that they get to use, it's just that actual history. Now, what's unique here is on Sarah's individual policy, she only has 3 years of history. And if you'll know from our previous podcast, you have to have 4 years of history in order to have a master yield. Well, because Sarah gets to use any history from other policies where she is the operator, she gets to use Green Harvest Farms history. Now, Green Harvest Farms happens to have 2 years of history, and those 2 years aren't the same years as Sarah's. So if you add those together, she now has 5 years of history. Now, if Green Harvest Farms had 2 years of history, but it happened to be in the same years that Sarah already had history, even by adding them up, you would still only have 3 years. And so that wouldn't qualify for a master yield. But in this example, because they're seated in, let's say, even years with Green Harvest Farms and odd years on Sarah Johnson's policy, she would have a total of 5. Don't forget, with Sarah, she also gets to use the Harmony Agri Solutions production history because she's an operator there. And on that policy, there's 5 years of history. So right off the bat, even if she didn't have any history on her policy, she would get to use all the history from those other entities. So she would need to have that crop on her policy in order to add the master yield. But she wouldn't have to have any history on her farm, and she'd be able to use those other policies' histories where she's an operator. So that's kind of a clue as to why people might want to use master yields. Now, the same can be said for Michael's. I don't think we need to dive into that because it's just the same story, but just different entities. The number of years that Michael has on his policy, He's going to combine those with his commercial entity and that partnership to come up with the total production history to average for their master yields. Now, it should be noted when I'm talking about 3 years of history on Sarah Johnson's policy, that could come from like 6 APH databases on her policy. We're just adding up every year counts as one line item when you're doing a master yield. So if all 3 entities seeded crop in 2023, you would add all the production and all the acres together for that 2023 line item. Now, when we look at what the math looks like, we have these little tables on our website where you'll be able to see it, where we show each entity's history, what their average history is, and then we take a look at what their master yield would be if they decided to use it. Now, when you go to reference this, you'll see that Sarah Johnson's average history was 37.5. Now, because she gets to use all these other entities' histories, her commercial operation, where she's the operator, and the partnership, where she's an operator, when you average all that together, her average is 43.8. So it's higher than what her master, well, she wouldn't get a master yield by herself, but it's higher than her average yield. And again, the reason she wouldn't get a master yield by herself is she only has 3 years of history. Now, when you look at Michael's, his average on his policy is 57.1, but when he averages in his other commercial operation and that partnership, he goes down to 49.9. So for him to go to a master yield, he might want to think about that because his go down from 57.1 down to 49.9. So that's a pretty big drop. Now, when you look at Harmony Agri Solutions, that's going to take everybody's history and average all of it together. It's going to end up with a 47.7. So by itself, Harmony Agri Solutions average is 44.4. So if it wanted to use a master yield, that would get a little bit of a bump. Now, you're probably saying, why doesn't Michael just use his history plus his commercial entity, because that would give him the highest master yield, and don't take into account that partnership where he's an operator? Well, you can't do that. You have to take all of the relevant history for that crop in that area that you are defined as an operator for. So you can't pick and choose which entity's history you want to use and which entity's history you don't want to use. You have to use it all. And so that's where master yields get tricky, because the crop insurance agent might not know all of the different entities that a farmer's involved in. And so it can get a little bit tricky. That's why all of this paperwork gets put together by the agent and the crop insurance underwriters, and they get it all put together and signed off on by the farmer. And then it goes to the regional office. Now, at the regional office, they're going to do a little bit more digging and a little bit more due diligence to make sure nobody fat-fingered any math and that they have all of the relevant history and data based on their databases. So just because your crop insurance agent's going to tell you what your master yield is when you sign off on it, doesn't always necessarily mean what is what it's going to be, because the regional office has to go through and verify everything and make necessary adjustments whenever appropriate. So hopefully that wasn't too confusing, just going through those numbers. But I really wanted to go over the examples of what an operator is, what history you can use, when you can use it, when you can't, how it can take somebody with not enough history or any history to end up with a master yield with a pretty high yield based on their operator definition and other entities they might be involved in. So again, make sure you listen to the previous episode. Head over to our website at thecropinsurancepodcast.com so you can find that article that's going to show the different tables and spell it out a little bit more clearly for you. At the end of the day, Master Yield is a great program. You just have to do all of the relevant work and due diligence to make sure it's going to work for your operation. From my family to yours, thank you very much for listening. I sincerely hope that this presentation has been instrumental in enhancing your understanding of federal crop insurance. If you find value in our podcast, we kindly encourage you to subscribe and spread the word among your friends and neighbors. To access further information, please visit our website at thecropinsurancepodcast.com, where you'll find the latest podcast episodes, articles, and exciting new features conveniently located in one place. This information is not all-inclusive and is meant to be used only as general guidelines for educational purposes. For additional information, please see crop provisions, reference the Crop Insurance Handbook or Loss Adjustment Manual, or contact your crop insurance agent. This institution is an equal opportunity provider and employer.